In a stunning turn of events that no one saw coming, Parliament has allegedly uncovered evidence suggesting that Queen Camilla may have been involved in the forgery of critical royal decree records. And at the center of the storm stands Prince William, reportedly left completely stunned, his face pale, his trust in the institution he is destined to lead shattered. This is not palace gossip. This is not tabloid speculation. According to sources close to Westminster, this is a constitutional earthquake that could rewrite the future of the crown itself. Stay with me until the very end, because the details emerging from the closed-door sessions are more explosive than anyone imagined. If this story is true, it raises questions that go far beyond one woman's ambition. It questions the legitimacy of decisions made at the highest levels of the royal household. It questions loyalty. It questions power. And it leaves Prince William facing a crisis that could define his entire reign before it even begins. Let's go back to where this extraordinary story begins. For years, the public has watched Camilla Parker Bowles transform from the most controversial figure in modern royal history into queen consort. Many believe the past had been carefully buried. The affair, the divorces, the public fury after Diana's death, all of it seemed to have been managed, softened, and eventually accepted. But according to the latest reports filtering out of Parliament, some records related to royal decrees, documents that carry the weight of legal and constitutional authority, may not be what they appear to be. These are not ordinary papers. Royal decrees and related instruments have historically been treated with almost sacred seriousness. They touch on succession, titles, privileges, and the formal relationship between the crown and the state. If even a single one of those records has been altered, backdated, or fabricated, the implications are enormous, and the name that keeps surfacing in connection with the alleged irregularities is Camilla's. Insiders claim that a small group of MPs, working quietly with constitutional experts and archival specialists, began examining certain files after inconsistencies appeared in the official timeline surrounding key royal decisions made in recent years. What started as a routine check reportedly turned into something far more serious. Documents that should have matched existing palace records did not. Signatures that should have been verifiable raised questions. Dates that should have aligned with known events appeared suspiciously convenient. When the findings were presented in a private briefing, the atmosphere in the room is said to have turned ice cold. One senior figure reportedly muttered that if the allegations held, it would be the most serious breach of royal integrity in living memory. And then came the moment that has become the centerpiece of this entire saga. Prince William was informed. Those who were present described the Prince of Wales as visibly shaken. For a man who has spent years carefully preparing for kingship, who has spoken often about duty, transparency, and modernizing the monarchy, the idea that forged or manipulated records might exist under the royal roof is almost unthinkable. William has long been known for his protectiveness toward the institution. He has also been known for his complicated relationship with Camilla, polite in public, far more reserved in private. Now, according to these accounts, that reserve has hardened into something closer to shock and deep concern. Sources close to the prince say he demanded a full internal review. He wanted every relevant file examined. He wanted answers about who had access, who had authorized what, and whether any of the disputed decrees had already been used to shape policy or public messaging. The palace, for its part, has so far offered no official comment. Silence, in these situations, often speaks louder than any statement. But the story does not stop at William's reaction. The real power of this unfolding drama lies in what Parliament is said to be preparing next. If the evidence is strong enough, there could be formal questions raised on the floor of the House. There could be call for greater transparency around the creation and storage of royal instruments. There could even be pressure for independent oversight of certain palace processes that have historically remained sealed from public view. Imagine the scene. The future king confronted with the possibility that documents carrying the authority of the crown may have been compromised. Imagine the quiet conversations behind closed doors at Kensington Palace and Buckingham Palace. Imagine the calculations being made by advisors who suddenly realize that the carefully constructed image of continuity and legitimacy may have a fracture running through it. Camilla's defenders will of course argue that these claims are exaggerated, politically motivated, or simply wrong. They will point to her years of service, her charity work, and the late Queen's eventual acceptance of her. They will insist that any irregularities, if they exist at all, are clerical errors rather than deliberate forgery. But the very fact that such serious allegations are being discussed at the highest levels of government is itself extraordinary. Forgery of official records is not a minor scandal. It strikes at the heart of trust. What makes this moment especially charged is the timing. The monarchy is already navigating a period of transition and scrutiny. Public support is not as automatic as it once was. Younger generations ask harder questions about privilege, relevance, and accountability. In that climate, any suggestion that the system itself has been manipulated, especially by someone so close to the throne, lands with particular force. Prince William's reported reaction is telling. Those who know him say he is not a man who dramatizes. He does not seek the spotlight for personal grievances. If he is truly stunned, it is because the implications run deeper than personal feelings. It is because the integrity of the institution he is preparing to lead may be at stake. And once that trust is questioned, it is not easily restored. The next phase of the story is already taking shape. Additional documents are said to be under review. Witnesses with knowledge of how certain decrees were prepared are being quietly approached. And inside the royal household, the atmosphere has shifted from business as usual to something far more tense. Staff members who once moved freely through certain corridors now find themselves under greater scrutiny. Conversations that used to be casual have become careful. This is the kind of crisis that does not announce itself with headlines alone. It builds in the spaces between official statements. It grows in the private briefings and the late-night discussions. And right now, at the center of it all, stands a future king who has just been told that the records of the crown itself may have been compromised, and that the person linked to those alleged actions is the woman currently serving as queen consort. We are only at the beginning of what could become one of the most significant royal controversies of the decade. The full picture is still emerging. More details are expected in the coming days. But one thing is already clear. Prince William has been forced to confront a possibility he never wanted to consider. And the monarchy may never look quite the same again. In the next part of this investigation, we will examine the specific decrees that raised the alarm, the timeline of how the alleged irregularities were discovered, and the quiet power struggle now unfolding between the future king and the current consort. The questions only grow more serious from here. What exactly was altered? Who stood to benefit? And how far is Prince William prepared to go to protect the integrity of the crown? Stay tuned. The story is far from over. The specific decrees now under the microscope are said to involve formal instruments touching on titles, residences, and certain privileges granted in the years following the late Queen's death. According to the parliamentary sources, at least 2 documents appear to show inconsistencies in the chain of authentication. One allegedly carries a signature sequence that does not align with known palace protocols of the time. Another seems to have been entered into the official record with a date that contradict contemporaneous diary entries and correspondence already held in public archives. These are not minor clerical slips. If proven, they suggest deliberate alteration of records that carry constitutional weight. The timeline of discovery is equally revealing. The first red flags emerged not from tabloid digging but from a quiet cross-check ordered after an unrelated Freedom of Information request. Archivists noticed that certain digital scans of royal instruments did not match the physical paper versions stored under tighter security. When specialists were brought in, the discrepancies widened. Watermarks, ink analysis, and metadata all pointed toward possible post-dating or selective editing. The matter was escalated. Within weeks, it reached a small circle of senior parliamentarians who decided the findings could no longer remain internal. It was at this point that Prince William was briefed. Those present describe a man who listened in his silence, asking only precise, controlled questions. He wanted to know the exact nature of the alleged alterations. He wanted to know whether any of the disputed decrees had already been acted upon in public or legal settings. And he wanted to know how long the irregularities might have gone unnoticed. The answers, according to the same sources, left him visibly unsettled. For a future king who has repeatedly stressed the importance of transparency and institutional integrity, the possibility that forged or manipulated records existed inside the royal system was a profound betrayal of the very principles he has tried to embody. What followed was a quiet but determined power struggle. William is said to have instructed his closest advisors to open an independent review, separate from palace's usual channels. Camilla's team, by contrast, is reported to have pushed for the matter to remain confidential and for any anomalies to be framed as administrative error. The tension between these two approaches has created an atmosphere of deep mistrust inside the household. Staff members speak of closed doors, restricted access to certain files, and an unusual level of legal caution surrounding every new communication. The stakes could scarcely be higher. If the allegations of forgery hold, they do more than damage one individual's reputation. They raise questions about the reliability of the official record of the Crown itself. In a constitutional monarchy, the legitimacy of royal acts rests on the assumption that the documents recording them are authentic. Any proven interference with that authenticity would force uncomfortable conversations about accountability, oversight, and the limits of private royal authority. Parliament, once it moved beyond private briefings, may feel compelled to demand greater public transparency around the creation and safekeeping of such instruments. Prince William's reported reaction is therefore not merely personal. It is institutional. He is said to understand that the monarchy's long-term survival depends on public trust, and that trust is fragile. The younger generation already questions hereditary privilege more openly than previous ones. A scandal involving forged decrees would hand critics powerful ammunition and force the future king into a defensive posture at the very moment he needs to project strength and renewal. Those close to him claim he is determined not to allow the matter to be buried. Whether that determination leads to public statements, internal reforms, or quiet but irreversible distancing remains to be seen. Meanwhile, Camilla's position grows more precarious with every new detail that surfaces. Her defenders continue to insist that the claims are overstated and politically driven. They point to her years of public service and the late Queen's eventual endorsement. Yet the silence from the palace has become conspicuous. No formal denial has been issued. No detailed rebuttal has been offered. In the absence of clear answers, speculation fills a vacuum, and the narrative of a stunned Prince William confronting possible betrayal gains strength. As the investigation continues, additional questions press forward. Who else may have known about the irregularities? Were any other senior figures involved in authorizing or overlooking the changes? And what, precisely, was the intended purpose of the disputed decrees? Some observers suggest the alterations, if real, may have been designed to strengthen certain privileges or to reshape the official story of Camilla's elevation. Others warn against rushing to conclusions before the full evidence is tested. What no one disputes is that the mere existence of the inquiry has already altered the internal dynamics of the royal family. The coming weeks are likely to prove decisive. Further forensic examination of the documents is expected. More witnesses may be approached. And Prince William will face continued pressure to decide how publicly he is prepared to confront the issue. For a man who has spent his adult life preparing to wear the crown, this is an early and severe test of the values he claims to hold. Integrity versus loyalty. Transparency versus institutional protection. The choice he makes will shape not only his relationship with the current queen consort, but the tone of his eventual reign. This is more than a royal soap opera. It is a moment that touches the foundations of constitutional monarchy in Britain. If the records of the crown can be questioned, then the authority those records support can be questioned as well. Prince William, by all accounts, understands the gravity of that reality. He has been left stunned. The nation, if these allegations continue to gain force, may soon share that sense of shock. The full truth is still unfolding. More documents may yet come to light. More voices may choose to speak. But one fact already stands clear. The carefully maintained image of seamless continuity has been cracked, and the man who must one day hold the crown together is now forced to confront the possibility that the crack began closer to the throne than anyone wished to believe. What happens next will determine whether this remains a quiet constitutional crisis or becomes a defining royal scandal of a generation. Watch this space. The story is only beginning to reveal its full weight. If you found this investigation compelling, leave your thoughts below. Do you believe the allegations of forged royal decrees can be substantiated? How should Prince William respond? Subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next development in this rapidly evolving story. The monarchy's future may depend on what comes to light next.